All right, let's talk about one of the coolest things you can do to cut down on waste and seriously level up your garden: composting. We're going to break down exactly how to turn your everyday kitchen scraps into an amazing resource for your soil. So you ready? Let's dig in.
But first, I want you to just think about this for a second. What if all the stuff you normally toss out, the coffee grounds, the eggshells, apple cores, all those leaves in the yard, what if none of that was actually garbage? What if it was something else entirely?
Well, it is. It's the raw material for what gardeners lovingly call black gold. This whole process is about transforming what we see as waste into, literally, one of the most valuable things you could ever add to your soil.
So what even is composting? It might sound kind of scientific or complicated, but really, it's just a process that nature has been perfecting for, well, millions of years.
At its heart, composting is just us speeding up nature's own recycling program. All we're doing is creating the perfect little home for a whole army of microorganisms. We're talking bacteria, fungi, worms, the whole crew, so they can do what they do best: break down all that organic stuff and turn it into this amazing, super nutrient-rich material called humus.
Okay, so the first question pretty much everyone asks is, so what can I actually put in this thing? Getting this right is really just about knowing your yes list. Think of it like a recipe for the perfect compost.
Let's start in the kitchen. You've got your obvious stuff, right? Fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grounds, eggshells. But look what else is on here. Stale pasta, wooden toothpicks, and yeah, even that greasy pizza box. I know, that one surprises people. Just tear it into smaller pieces and it'll break right down.
Now, let's head outside, because your yard is an absolute gold mine for compost ingredients. We're talking fallen leaves, grass clippings, little twigs. You can even toss weeds in there. And this is important, make sure they haven't gone to seed yet. Otherwise, you're just going to be planting a weed garden later on.
And this is where it gets really fun. You'd be amazed at what you can compost. The hair from your brush or your pet's fur? Yep. That lint that collects in your dryer? Totally. Things like shredded newspaper, natural wine corks, and even a little bit of wood ash from a fireplace can go in. Oh, and if you have any plant-eating pets, like chickens or rabbits, their manure is absolute compost gold. Now, what you leave out is every bit as important as what you put in. If you avoid just a few key things, that's the secret to keeping your pile happy, smell-free, and, not attracting a bunch of unwanted critters.
Okay, the big three no-nos are meat, dairy, and oily, greasy foods. Now, technically, they'll break down eventually, but the smell they create is basically a giant dinner bell for pests like raccoons and rats. Trust me, it's just not worth the headache for a home compost pile.
And here's a really important distinction when it comes to animal waste. As we saw, manure from plant eaters, herbivores, is fantastic. But waste from meat eaters, like dogs and cats, is a definite no. The reason is that it can carry some nasty parasites and pathogens that you absolutely do not want anywhere near the soil you grow your food in. You also want to make sure your compost is helping your plants, not hurting them. So keep any diseased plants out. Those pathogens can sometimes survive the process. Same for weeds that have already gone to seed. And here's a super specific one: black walnut trees. They actually release a natural chemical that's toxic to a lot of other plants, so keep their leaves and twigs out of the pile. And finally, skip the ash from charcoal briquettes. It's usually full of chemicals.
And this slide just perfectly captures a frustration that every single person who composts feels deep in their soul. The tiny plastic produce sticker. It doesn't break down, it gets everywhere. This quote from a Reddit user just says it all. So please remember to peel your stickers.
Okay, so you've got your list of ingredients. Now for the really cool part, the science. Let's take a quick look at how all this stuff actually becomes that black gold we've been talking about.
So the whole process is powered by something called the carbon-to-nitrogen ratio. The easiest way to think about it is this. Carbon is the energy food for all those little microbes, and nitrogen is the protein they need to grow and multiply. The sweet spot, the absolute perfect recipe for fast, healthy composting, is a ratio of about 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen. Now, the simplest way to manage that ratio is to think in terms of browns and greens. This slide lays it out perfectly. Browns are your carbon source. Think dry stuff, like fallen leaves, twigs, and cardboard. Greens provide the nitrogen. That's all your wet stuff, like kitchen scraps and fresh grass clippings. The main takeaway here? You need way more browns than greens to hit that perfect balance. And when you get that recipe just right, something truly incredible happens. The pile will actually heat up a lot. I mean, we're talking up to 140, even 160 degrees Fahrenheit, all generated by those billions of tiny microbes working overtime. And that heat is your best friend. It's what sterilizes the compost, killing off any weed seeds or harmful bacteria.
Of course, things don't always go perfectly, right? But don't worry, the most common problems have really simple fixes. So let's run through a couple of them.
Okay, this is the #1 fear for pretty much every beginner. You start a pile, and all of a sudden, it stinks. A healthy compost pile should smell earthy, kind of like a forest. If it smells foul, what's going on?
A smelly pile almost always means the same thing. It's too wet and it can't breathe. The good microbes need oxygen to do their job. So the fix is super simple. First, add a bunch of dry, brown materials to soak up that extra moisture. Then, just grab a pitchfork and turn the whole pile. That gets oxygen in there and gets those happy, non-smelly microbes back to work.
All right, the other common problem is a pile that just sits there. You know, it's not heating up, it's not shrinking, nothing seems to be happening. So what's the deal?
Usually, a stalled pile is just missing one of its key ingredients. First, check the moisture. If it's too dry, the microbes basically go to sleep. So give it a little water. And just like with a smelly pile, turning it is always a good idea to get oxygen flowing. And finally, take a look at your recipe. You might just need to add more of those nitrogen-rich greens to give the microbes the fuel they need to get things cooking again.
After a little bit of patience and care, you finally get to the best part: harvesting and actually using your finished compost. This is the payoff for all your hard work.
You'll know it's ready when it's dark, crumbly, and smells like a rich forest floor. You shouldn't be able to recognize any of the original ingredients. One of the best things to do with it is feed your houseplants. Just adding an inch or so to the top of the soil a couple of times a year will give them all the nutrients they need.
And in a vegetable garden? Oh, compost is a total game changer. You can spread a few inches on top of the soil before you plant, or use it to feed your plants during the growing season. Heavy feeding plants like tomatoes and squash will absolutely go crazy for it, and you'll end up with healthier plants and a better harvest.
And hey, don't forget about your trees and shrubs. Spreading a couple inches of compost around them as mulch is incredibly beneficial. You'll want to spread it all the way out to the drip line, which is just the area on the ground right under the tips of the branches. It helps the soil hold on to moisture, keeps the roots cool, and slowly feeds the tree over time. It's fantastic stuff.
So there you have it. Composting literally transforms trash into treasure, a problem into a solution. It's such a simple, powerful way to create a healthier garden and a healthier planet, one kitchen scrap at a time. The only question left is, are you ready to start?